Welcome to Module 2. We're going to talk about supervisor roles and responsibilities here. So as a supervisor, you're going to play one of the most important roles in workplace safety. You are the first line of defense against accidents or potential accidents that are going to be caused by drug and alcohol misuse. You see these employees day in and day out. You're going to notice what their habits are, their behaviors, and you're going to notice when something seems off. And that's going to make you uniquely qualified to really step in and do something about it when the safety is at risk. And so the Department of Transportation doesn't just ask you to do this. It gives you the authority and it gives you the responsibility to act when you do have a reasonable suspicion. And that means that you aren't powerless here. You are empowered to remove an employee from duty if you believe that they have been impaired. And that is a big responsibility, but it's a necessary responsibility. At the same time, your role is going to require balance. You are not here to play detective. All right? You're not here to unfairly judge employees. You're here to ensure fairness while also upholding compliance. And that's going to mean making decisions that are based on facts and observations, not just assumptions or personal feelings. It's about protecting people, protecting the company, and protecting yourself legally. So one of the most common questions that a supervisor has is, when should I act? The answer is really straightforward. Anytime that you see a specific observable sign of possible drug or alcohol use, when the employee is performing or is about to perform some safety sensitive duties. So this is going to be before they start a shift, during the shift itself, or even after a shift if their actions are still impacting people's safety. You don't need proof, like seeing a bottle in someone's hand. Or an admission from the employee. Reasonable suspicion does not require absolute certainty. It requires observations that you can describe and defend. So if you can clearly explain what you saw or what you heard or what you smelled that raised your concern, then you're going to have the grounds to act. And it's also going to be important that you don't ignore the red flags. If you're waiting for more evidence, that's going to be putting people at risk. If you see enough to raise suspicion, you're required to act promptly. Acting quickly is not only your legal responsibility, but it's also a moral one because lives and safety may be on the line. So your responsibilities as a supervisor can really just be summed up in 5 key steps. First, recognize the signs of the alcohol and drug misuse. That's going to come from careful observation and also training, and we're going to practice that throughout this course. Then second, we want to document what we're observing in very clear, objective language. And then third, if the signs are strong enough, remove the employee from the safety-sensitive duties. Safety is always going to come first. And then fourth, we want to arrange for a test as soon as possible because the DOT requires alcohol testing within 2 hours and drug testing as quickly as possible. And then lastly, we want to maintain confidentiality. That means only sharing information with those who need to know, like HR or a designated company official. We don't want to go around telling everybody everything. Discussing the matters with coworkers is, not okay. Or allowing rumors to spread. That's going to violate the employee's confidentiality, and it's also going to undermine trust. And each one of these steps is going to be essential here. If you leave one of these out, you risk damaging the integrity of the process or failing the DOT audit. But more importantly, you're going to risk putting lives in danger. And following all 5 of those responsibilities is going to ensure compliance, it's going to ensure fairness, and also safety. And it's equally important to know what is not your responsibility, because you are not expected to diagnose substance use disorders. That's the role of the medical professional or the certified substance abuse counselor. You are not here to act as a counselor or a therapist for your employees. Your job is not to provide treatment. Your job is to recognize and act when the impairment is suspected. You don't need to investigate the person's personal life. Whether somebody is struggling at home or going through something outside of work, that is not for you to determine. All that matters is whether they impaired on the job. So are they appearing impaired? Focus on anything else, and that's going to distract you from your role. And it can also create some legal risks for the company. And lastly, discipline is not your decision. Once you've made a reasonable suspicion determination and you initiate the proper steps, the company's policies, the HR processes, those are going to take over. Your responsibility ends with the observation and the documentation and the initiating the test. That's it. The distinction is important here because it's going to keep your role clear and very manageable. You are not responsible for the discipline. Your role as a supervisor matters for a couple of reasons. First and most importantly, it's going to protect public safety. Imagine a bus driver or a truck driver or maybe like a heavy equipment operator who is under the influence. The consequences could be deadly. So by stepping in, you're preventing an accident before it happens. And then second, your actions are protecting the company. One accident caused by impairment can lead to lawsuits, regulatory fines, damage to that reputation, and that is going to take years to rebuild. Supervisors who take their responsibility seriously are going to play a very huge role in protecting their company and keeping that company from those risks. And then third, your actions are going to benefit the employee themselves. It might feel uncomfortable to intervene, and sometimes that's exactly what an employee needs. Reasonable suspicion testing isn't just about compliance, it's about accountability. And for employees, this process becomes a turning point that kind of pushes them toward getting help. And in this way, your actions are not just protecting lives, but changing them for the better.